And I once asked him, I said, do you study for the show? And he said, actually, I study very hard, which a little bit, Harris said, a little bit surprised me. But he was a fantastic man, a fantastic talent. And people, whether they loved him or not, they respected him. They really did.
President Trump, if you would stay with together, and then I have a follow-up question.
Millions of people a day who will be receiving our country's I will now ask the First Lady of the Rush and Catherine, congratulations.
And if you are just tuning in, we are joined by President number 45, former President Donald J. Trump. And you saw him there along with the First Lady awarding Rush Limbaugh, who has left us today, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And President Trump, I have always wondered, just seeing the look of surprise on Rush's face, what he knew about that moment and what you learned that he was going through in that moment after. He is succumbed to tears, and I was curious, what did he know was coming?
So I did tell him beforehand, because we didn't have the power of not doing it. You know, Rush was very sick at the time. He was at a hospital in Boston, and I didn't want to do the surprise thing. I wish I could have done that, but we really didn't have that power of doing it, because he had to. It was a very difficult thing for him to come into Washington from where he was, and he did it. And there was questions as to whether or not he was just a very brave guy. He was amazing, and he came in, and it was, as he told me, it was the greatest honor of his life. And everybody in the room, you're talking about the Republicans and the Democrats. You had half of that room went crazy. You remember the evening well, I'm sure. It was a very unique moment in our country's history, in a sense, because of who Rush is. But half went just absolutely crazy. The other half sat totally dead silent, but 100% of that room respected Rush. It was a unique guy, and he was he became a friend of mine. You know, I didn't know Rush at all. I had essentially never met Rush. And then when we came down the escalator, he liked my rather controversial speech. I made that speech that was a little bit on the controversial side, and he loved it. And he was, without ever having met him or talked to him or, had lunch with him and asked him, he was with me right from the beginning. And he liked what I said, and he agreed with what I said, and he was just a great gentleman, great man.
Mr. President.
That is such fascinating detail that you're giving, Mr. President, about how you didn't really know him all that well, yet he became someone who carried your message. I'm curious to know what you wanted him to know, and maybe you got to tell him in the last 3 or 4 days that you spoke about the difference that he made for you.
Well, I think he did, and I've heard as many as 39 million people. That's an audience that you don't hear about anymore. And I heard 39 million people, and I don't know if you remember, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I did his show, and I heard they had a tremendous audience, and it lasted for like a long time. The interview was like an hour, and it just went right through, and it was... His questions were fascinating. I think the show was fascinating. He had a way of, he had an insight that few people have, just few people have, even really good ones, really pros in your business. And by the way, you two are some great combination. You and Bill together, Harris, that's a great combination that does incredibly well.
Thank you,
we
Mr.
thank
President.
you for it. We really thank you both for it. But he was a very unique guy, and he had tremendous insight. He got it. He really got it. He was very street smart, in a sense, and a lot of people wouldn't know, but he was very, very street smart. He really got it.
Mr. President, we probably have 100 questions for you, but so many of them are not appropriate for this venue, so we'll keep it on this topic for now, and we appreciate your time today. Perhaps that street smarts came from growing up in the Midwest. Cape Girardeau in Missouri along the Mississippi River. Later, he went on to work for the Kansas City Royals and the Pittsburgh Pirates before he turned his attention full-time to radio in Sacramento, California. But you just said something a moment ago, and Harris picked up on it. Just tell us more about how you two got to know each other. I'm thinking of 2015, the summer, 17 candidates on a stage in Cleveland. At what point did he concede that you were the guy, and how did that come about?
Well, I got a call from a friend of mine who was a big Rush fan, and he said, Rush loves you. I said, I don't see that. You know, I hadn't heard. I'm not able to listen to the radio during the afternoon too much. You're on the trail, and you're making speeches or doing whatever you're doing. I was actually making speeches and running a business. I was doing both of them simultaneously, right? And he just told me that, and then all of a sudden I started getting little transcript stuff. I would try to listen every once in a while. He was there right from the beginning, and it was incredible. And then I guess I called him just to thank him, and we developed just some very good friendship. We played golf together a little bit. He was a very strong guy, physically very strong, hit the ball a long way.
I guess the reason I asked that question, you think back about 5 years ago, you don't strike me as his kind of guy back then. What changed?
Well, I don't know. You know, you never know about people. I like some people that nobody would think I like, and I dislike some people that everybody would say, oh, that's a natural. We all know about that, right? I mean, you never know who you like and who you don't like, or you know, where it all ends up. But right from the beginning, he was so great. And, you know, and I have a very beautiful weakness. I always seem to like people that like me, okay? You know, it's much easier. When they don't like me, I tend not to go for them so much. So call that a strength or call that a weakness, but that's the way it is. But Rush was so gracious and so great. So then over a period of time, I got to know him, and he loved this country. He loved the country. He loved his wife and his family. And he loved his fans, his audience, which was, I think, maybe the biggest ever. There's never been anything like it. You know, when Sean says irreplaceable, he really means it too. He's irreplaceable.
What did he share with you?
I'm
after
curious.